whatever. It's really bizarre, but he expects me to go all the way there with a crew of people. So I just said, no, contact the Australian skeptic. I gave them the email addresses. And either the skeptics will say, okay, we'll go and take a look at another oily statue, or they'll decline to do it. And that's up to them entirely. Usually they will go and take a look at it. And but proving it is a different matter altogether. You would have to stay in touch with that thing 24 hours a day with a camera trained on it, wide angle, to make sure that no one goes near it. Usually what they do is with a water pistol, incidentally, they fill it with the scented oil and squirt. They give it a little shot from underneath the armpit. We found that going on in Kingston, Ontario, a matter of a few years ago.
Can you speculate on the motive in those types of situations?
Oh, yes. They raise a lot of money. This church in Brisbane has got people lined up 24 hours a day around the church to come in and see the holy statue, and they put a little something in the pot when they pass by, and the church is now very prosperous. It's money. Money is the bottom line in most of these things. You've got to think of that. Look for that dollar sign or that pound sign or yen or yuan or whatever you're looking for.
I want to hit a little bit on scientific research. For instance, recently you were featured in a special on Tech TV about homeopathy.
Oh yeah, that was actually a repeat of a BBC program. Oh, was it? Yeah, that was done on Horizon some years ago.
Okay, very interesting program, but there was interesting research cited from a major scientific journal, especially supporting what they called the memory theory of water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You challenged the research with your prize, and again, they came up short under controlled circumstances. But it was kind of a dramatic moment. Can you tell us what happened?
That dramatic moment was faked. I have to accuse the BBC of doing this, and the producer has since agreed with me that the editor did it. You see me doing this kind of a thing. I had laryngitis so badly that they used me only about 1/3 of the time that they had scheduled, because I could hardly do this kind of a thing. I really had bad laryngitis, which I haven't had for many years. And what I was doing was this kind of a thing, and they edited that in as if I was looking worried. I wasn't the least bit worried, because mathematics is going to support me. There's no question of it. Mathematics, statistics, and the opportunity to test homeopathy so diligently and so completely and with such a large database was something we certainly couldn't pass up, and I offered the $1 million for it.
I guess my question is, in a major scientific journal, such as the one that published the article about the research proving the memory of water, supposedly proving the memory of water, how do these reputable major journals manage to get things so wrong?
Well, because they depend upon the fact that the person usually has a PhD after his name. Now, PhD means you're educated. Doesn't mean you're smart. It means you're very well educated. But using that education is sometimes an art that they never teach. How to use what we've taught you. You should be taught how to discover things on your own, where to go to originate ideas and whatnot, how to carry them out. But PhDs often aren't equipped that way. I know many PhDs that don't know how the real world works, actually, but they know that if they do enough research and gather a large enough database and then apply statistics to it, and many of them apply many different statistical pictures until they get the result that they think is sensational and will make it into the media, they don't really know what they're doing in the way of science. Now, I'm not a scientist. I've never made a claim of being a scientist. But I know how science works. And Isaac Asimov, whose picture's right on the wall there, this library is dedicated to the memory of Isaac. He once said, James Randi knows more about how to design a scientific experiment than any handful of PhDs that I know. But that's only because I'm a practical guy. And sometimes academics have their head in the clouds. Now, again, to go back to more fundamental things such as, does water have a memory? I don't know, and I don't care, because that's part of the theory of how homeopathy works. This is exactly like going about and measuring chimneys to find out whether fat guys in red suits can squeeze down the chimney on the evening of December the 25th. The 24th, I'm sorry. The morning of the 25th. I'm sorry, Santa, if I did you wrong there. That's not the way to do a scientific test, to find out whether chimneys will accommodate fat guys. So what they're doing is they're looking for how does homeopathy work without finding out whether homeopathy works. And so far, what we've discovered shows rather definitively, no, homeopathy does not work. Certainly doesn't work as claimed. They're not getting minute doses of active medicines. They're getting 0 doses of substances that simply aren't there anymore. They're diluted beyond existence. That's astonishing. But that's the way science, unfortunately, doesn't work well.
You had another example in your book. I believe the authors of the study were Targ and
Puthoff.
Puthoff.
The Laurel and Hardy of Psi, as I often refer to them.
They had major articles published, which you went after. Can you tell us about those?
Well, the major article they had published, Targ and Puthoff, was in Nature magazine. And they very happily bought up what they call in the trade tear sheets, or replicas of it. And they distributed them to scientific organizations all over the world. What they didn't put in was the editorial that accompanied it. And the editorial referred to the paper as a ragbag of facts. It said that this is highly questionable, not acceptable, not up to our standards and such, but we publish it here in order to show the reading public the present status of parapsychology. In other words, they were showing how badly it can be done and was being done. But Targ and Puthoff said, and quite rightly, that's not part of the scientific paper. No, not properly, not by definition, that's not what you send out, unless you have a thing called integrity and ethics, in which case you certainly should have included that. They did further tests with Mr. Geller, not Targ and Puthoff, because they'll always believe in nonsense. They're set up that way to believe in it, and it's their pride as well, remember. And Puthoff, right at this very moment, as a matter of fact, is investigating zero-point energy, which is another free energy thing, perpetual motion, whatever you want to call it. They like to call it free energy because perpetual motion has a bad name, you see. Well, free energy also has a bad name, but he's determined that he's on the way to satisfying the energy needs of the globe for the next millennium or something. So these people, I think they're not rowing with both oars in the water. That's the way I put it, but then I'm not a scientist, so I don't know how to put it otherwise.
And yet it's interesting that they gained international notoriety. Oh,
yes, they did. But as soon as the facts became known, all that fell away, of course. Although people like Geller are still boasting of the fact they were published in Nature magazine. But that paper was very revealing of how badly science can be done.
Tell us, you've written a book about Uri Geller, and my sense is that people perhaps from my generation or younger may not be familiar with him.
That's probably true, yes. Because it's not popular. See, books that say Santa Claus doesn't exist, or Richard Nixon is not alive and well and living in Argentina, those books don't sell very well. That's something people say, oh, well, I already knew that. You know. But books that support belief in the paranormal, the supernatural, the occult, are always very popular. Now, I know, under a different name, of course, I could go to a major publisher and say, I've got proof that Richard Nixon is alive and well and living in Argentina with Martin Bormann. Wow! Oh, we'll sell that. Look at the French author who just recently turned out a book saying that the plane that ran into the Pentagon was a total fake, that it didn't exist. There's evidence to the contrary, sir, but that got popular because it's a conspiracy book. People love conspiracies. They love to fly in the face that the sun doesn't rise every day. Well, technically it doesn't. The earth turns to face it, but let's not get into that. But it won't rise on Thursday 20 years from now. Wow, there's a book for you. So publishers know, again, bottom line, the dollar sign. They know what they're going to be able to sell. People are pretty well aware of Uri Geller in England because he lives there. He's in the press all the time. Mind you, he's treated as a bit of a buffoon in the press. You know, they have some stuff recently. The taste of the English people in the media is a little shaky as far as I'm concerned. I could show you the advertisement that appeared. That I won't even hint at what it is, but they were recommending a procedure for him, which sounds painful. The whole story of Uri Geller is interesting in that it was triggered by the article that appeared in Nature magazine, of course. And Nature magazine admits, and has admitted ever since, that it was a mistake to do it that way. That disclaimer they had should have been right on the opening page in a box, right there, bang. This is why we're publishing this paper, which would have changed his fortunes enormously. Uri Geller is an Israeli who lives in England now, and he claims that he can bend spoons with his mind. I said bend spoons with his mind. Hello? Yes, I'm telling you exactly what he claims. He claims he can bend spoons with his mind. Okay. What is the use of that, by the way? Has it moved mankind ahead one bit? Has it made our lives any different? Is your life enriched at all by the fact that Uri Geller can bend spoons with his mind? Well, it turns out that he can only do it when he's not being watched. The magicians ask me, well, if it's a trick, how does he do it? And I give them the solution. I say he does it when you're not looking. Oh, that's not much of an explanation. It's exactly what the explanation is. He bends it when you're not looking, because magicians have a way of making you not look, of making you look in a place where they want you to look, by the way they suggest you should be looking, and by various means of misdirection, as we call it in the trade. I don't want to get too technical here, but that's exactly what they do. They allow you to deceive yourself, essentially. I believe that Uri Geller, and I say this from my point of view as an expert on sleight of hand and magical techniques and illusionary techniques, I believe that Uri Geller is a perfectly ordinary magician. Now, that's an involved way of saying what I believe about him, but I do that for legal purposes. He's very fond of suing. He was declared by the federal courts here to be a litigious individual, which means that he'd have a very hard time bringing a slander or libel case in the United States again if the presiding magistrate is told about this finding of the federal courts, because they tend not to entertain suits from what are determined to be litigious individuals. At one point, he sued everybody in sight, left and right. He still sends out legal threats all over the place. You mention his name in any way, I'm sure you'll get a letter probably from Mr. Shippy Strang, who is his brother-in-law, but who poses as his legal advisor. What they do is they copy letters from other lawyers that they've used in the past. They just change the name. They'll put your name in instead of somebody else's, and change the date and the address on it, send it out to you, and you're supposed to be in mortal fear that you're going to be sued for millions, you see. Well, I have been sued for millions by Mr. Geller, and it cost me a lot of money. It cost me a small fortune over the years. But he was never paid one nickel of reward for all of his cases. So I think that pretty well defines who Uri Geller is. And he still has lots of believers around the world. He must have a couple of thousand people in the world today who are still his fan club.
Let's switch gears slightly to communicating with the dead. There is a TV show now that's become popular, Crossing Over. That program is in repeats now, and we're never seen here, because John Edward, the man who is the host on the program, he's in Australia, swindling Australians now. And I use that term very, very purposely, swindling people, yes, because this speaking to the dead thing, I think it's Henry V, Shakespeare's Henry V. I think it's Falstaff who says, I too can call spirits from the vasty deep, but when I call, will they answer? Now, I can talk to the dead right now. Hi, George. And I'm not hearing much of a response. In fact, I don't know whether George picked that up. Which George? Any George. I'm not proud. Sure. If there's any George out there, answer. Hello? No response. Drat. I spoke to the dead, but they didn't speak back. It's a game of 20 questions. It's the process we call cold reading. And there's an alternate version of that called warm or hot reading, which means that you actually know something about the person in advance before you go into the reading. Game of 20 questions, throwing out initials, throwing out names, throwing out places, things like colors and situations, and questions like, why am I seeing a dog? That doesn't mean anything. But if the person had a dog or has a dog, they'll respond to that and identify the dog. And you'll say, yes, it was a black dog that I was thinking of. Yes, he's saying the little black dog. Was that the one that was named Stephen? Oh, really? Stephen, the little black dog. It's a cruel game, but it's a game that is practiced on the vulnerable, the grieving,
people who are